Rev up your engines!
EJS 54 says, Scotty, in regard to timing belts, why do they make engines with interference engines instead of non-interference? Because the interference engines have more power. It's a racing design. Nissan was one of the early ones to really go to a belt with an interference engine. They have more power, and everybody wants power. And of course, the other reason is it's cheaper to make them that way. You got a rubber timing belt. The cogs that drive it can be cheaper metal. They're driving a rubber belt. You got a timing chain. Your timing gears, cam gears, the crank gear, they got to be strong because they're running a metal chain, not a piece of rubber. So they cost a lot more to make, and that's why they went to rubber timing belts. But interesting enough, most of the modern cars, they've gone back to timing chains because they're so high-tech, so much power in them, with variable valve timing where everything moves around. They found the chains were the only thing that would hold up. The belts would break. Although now some of them have these crazy fancy timing belts that are impregnated with oil. They're soaked in oil the whole time, and they cost $1,000-something to replace when they go bad. And they claim, oh, they'll last forever. Well, they won't. And then when they break, most of them are interference engines and goodbye car. They don't care about your car breaking when it breaks out of warranty. So, some of them are going back. I saw a GM one like that. I saw a Volkswagen like that, and it's crap. I wouldn't buy a car that had a rubber timing belt that's soaked in oil. Eventually, it's going to break. Zach Wyman says, my 2016 Chevy Malibu ships hard, sometimes slips third going to fourth. It's 104,000 miles. Should I keep it or should I get rid of it? It's a Chevy Malibu. They're made like crap, and your transmission's starting to go out. Eventually, it'll break. It costs you more money than the car's worth. That's your choice of what you want to do. But if you want to attempt to fix it in the short run, here's what I advise you to do. And I've had very good luck with it. Drain out 1 quart of the automatic transmission fluid, just 1. Put in 1 quart of Lucas anti-slip transmission additive. Lucas. Put it in, give it 250 miles of driving. If it fixes, you can praise me to the world. I've fixed a lot of cars that way. If it makes no difference, it's just flat going out, and there's nothing you can do. They're not made that well. Their transmissions are generally what crap out on those things. Now, you didn't say what engine you have, but especially with the ones with V6 engines. The V6 engines have more torque, and they wear the trannies out. Or if you have a turbocharged one, the turbocharger strain, make the engine have more power. That wears the transmission out faster, too. They're not good to begin with. You put more power in them, they wear out faster. Try the Lucas anti-slip treatment, though it might fix it for a while, in the short run. James Fryer says, Scotty, I got a 2000 Silverado, put a Delphi fuel pump. It makes a noise like it's sucking air. No fuel leaks. Replaced it with a different one under warranty and did the same thing. Okay, if it's making horrible noises, it generally means somewhere between the pump and the fuel injectors, there's a restriction. You might have hit something, might have bent a line. The fuel filter could be clogged up. The fuel pressure regulator could be bad. They make noise because they're straining. Whenever you hear a pump make a noise, it's either on its way out, worn out, or there's too much restriction and it's got to pump too hard. It starts making a noise. That's how you got a restriction somewhere. So check that out. Check the fuel pressure regulator. See if any lines are bent. Something is too restricted and makes it make a noise. Unless the Delphis are really being made like crap and they're just having bad pumps. Believe it or not, 20-something years ago, I had a guy with one, right? I put on 5 fuel pumps. They all made a noise. So I contacted the supplier and I said, man, these things are all making a noise. He said, I think for somebody else, I'd say, the guy's an idiot, he doesn't know how to put it on. I said, well, you know what you're doing. Turns out they had made thousands of them wrong, and they were all made wrong. You never know. Maybe they're all made wrong. Generally, though, it means there's a restriction. But just for giggles, if you can get a good aftermarket one, not one made in China, but one made here, get a good aftermarket and the noise goes away, you'll know that Delphi's making crap these days, and sometimes they are. I did do that one where I changed all those, and they all made a noise, and they were all bad, and the guy admitted it. He said, there's thousands of them out there, and they're all bad. It could be that, but more often than not, it's a restriction in the system somewhere. Harrison Kane said, Scotty, I got a 2.0 Ford Escape EcoBoost with 92,000 miles. Bought it with a bad torque converter. Does that mean the transmission problems are replacement soon? Well, if it really is a torque converter problem, you can replace the torque converter. You still got to pull the transmission off to do it. It's a pain in the butt. But I do it sooner than later, because if the torque converter is starting to go out, let's say it's wobbling. If it's wobbling, it can ruin the main shaft of your transmission. The transmission will be shot. I'd fix it sooner than later if you plan on keeping the vehicle. If the guy really knew what he was doing, I'd go to another transmission expert just for giggles to say, I've been told it's got a bad torque converter. Can you show me? And he'll put a scan tool and he can say, oh, here's the data. Okay, yeah, the torque converter is bad. And then have him replace the torque converter sooner than later, because if it breaks and destroys your transmission, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Mr. Meat says either 3.0-liter V6 engines in the early 90s 4Runners reliable engines if the head gasket was changed. Yeah, you know, they had head gasket problems. Yeah, because the only problem they had was the head gasket problems. They didn't make the head gasket out of the right material, and they make the newer ones out of a better material. So if it was changed, yeah, they can be good engines, but I mean, old cars and things are going to go wrong, right? But the engines, no. Once the head gasket was changed, very well made engines. And I just realized that the old style, they got timing belts, not timing chains, and you got to change the belts. But on the other hand, they're Toyotas, so they're non-interference belt engines. So if the belt breaks, the pistons don't hit the valves. Like if that was an Acura V6, the belt breaks, pistons hit the valves, goodbye engine. You don't have to worry about that. So if the timing belt did break, you just put another one on, no damage done. Casey says, Scotty, what are the symptoms of a bad or dead coil pack? I have an 88-town car and suddenly it dies and I can't get it to start. I think it's the coil pack. All right, it could be, but here's the thing. There's the coil pack on those old things, but there's also the ignition control module, ICM. Those are notorious for going bad on those Fords. Now, even today, a lot of these places like AutoZone, they'll test them free. Just bring in the ignition control module. But I'll tell you the truth of those old things, I change them both as a unit, because if one's bad, the others are on their way. If the coil packs are going bad, that can ruin the ICM. If the ICM's going bad, that can ruin the coil packs. And they're so cheap on those old things now, you get aftermarket ones. I would change the ICM and I would change the coil packs. If you find when it dies, you've lost spark. Because if you change them both, you're covering your bases and you won't have to think about it. Don't fix half of something when you can fix the whole thing for just a little bit money more. G. Gris says, Scotty, it takes forever to pump gasoline in my '05 Mercury Mountaineer with 187,000 miles. Okay, it takes forever because there's some kind of blockage. When you're filling it up, the fumes have to come out, and what they do is they go through the anti-pollution system. There's a charcoal canister, and there's an Evap canister vent valve. Pray it just needs an Evap canister vent valve. If the vent valve doesn't work, when you're filling it up, it'll keep turning the pump off because the fumes can't go anywhere, and they go into the handle, and the handle thinks it's full of gas, and it shuts it off. Could be as simple as a bad Evap canister vent valve. You might need a whole canister on an old vehicle like that, but try the vent valve because they often go bad. Then they don't vent while you're pumping them up, and it'll keep shutting off, and it takes forever to fill your gas. Also, look in there. You see there's little holes, and then there's hoses coming off. Sometimes spiders make little nests. Blow it with some compressed air. There's some spider out there that the pheromone that a female spider puts out smells like gasoline. So they smell the gasoline, they climb in there, and they die, and they clog it all up. Sometimes little rocks and stones get in there too, so make sure that the hose that goes to the canister isn't clogged up with stuff. Isaac Grass says, Scotty, I got a 2010 Ford Ranger with a 2.3 liter with 170,000 miles. Check engine lights on, it's running a PO171 code. I'm going to replace the oxygen sensors. What should I do? Okay, well, they probably won't fix it. When they're running lean, the oxygen sensor is the thing that tells the computer it's running lean. But most of the time, it's just reporting that your engine's running lean. It's not a problem. Let's say you got a vacuum leak, sucks air. Too much air, not enough fuel. You got a dirty fuel filter. It can't pump enough fuel through the fuel filter, the pump, so it runs lean. There's a lot of reasons a car can run lean. First, check for vacuum leaks. Bad at mass airflow sensor, maybe one that's covered with dirt and it needs cleaning. Watch my video, make your car run better with a little spray cleaner, and clean the mass airflow sensor. There's a lot of things you can do, but I would not just guess oxygen sensor because the oxygen sensor reports a problem. And if you replace it, you wasted your money if it's reporting a correct thing. And normally when they're running lean, they are running lean. And the sensor's telling the truth. So just guessing with that, it would be a foolhardy move. Check for vacuum leaks first and clean the mass airflow sensor. Well, as you may or may not know, the 2022 Toyota GR86, it starts at $28,875. It's all been done over. Now, realize, of course, like I've told you numerous times, it's not a Toyota. It's a Subaru. It's made in the Subaru factory. It's got the boxer 4-cylinder engine. It's normally aspirated. It's not turbocharged. And interestingly enough, it's cheaper than last year. $50. Still, $50 is $50. Not like Tesla keeps raising the prices of cars, $4,000 more, $5,000 more. Standard for the people who really want to drive cars. You make a little sports car, but make it in a standard. Come on now. They don't sell that many of them anyway. Well, they only sold 2,246 of the models in 2020, so it's not exactly large value. That's probably why they still offer them in standard and automatics. 90-something% of Americans drive automatic cars. They don't know how to drive a standard. So, it's a small amount of people that are actually buying these things. And the horsepower's up a little. And with that boxer engine, they're low to the ground. They do corner quite well. They're kind of a bumpy ride. I've went in them, and they are bumpy ride. But they're fun little cars to ride around. And then they really restyle. Just as they always says, realize this isn't a Toyota. This is a Subaru. They're made in the Subaru factory. It's the same as the Subaru model that they sell, except it's got a Subaru on the Subaru and a Toyota emblem on the Toyota. So they have 23 more horsepower than the last model did, 28 pound-feet of torque more than the last model. They make them a little bit zippier. Just realize it's not anything near a true race car, because it goes 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds. The Corvette does it in 2.6, so you can't even compare the two. I mean, they're a cute little sporty car to drive around in, kind of like a souped-up Mazda Miata. But interesting enough, every single one of the new ones comes with a 1-year membership with the National Auto Sport Association, and you get a free track day where they teach you how to drive it. Now, these are coming in December, so they'll be here soon in the United States. But the only problem is they're not selling the cheap model. They're only selling the expensive model so far. So you're getting the ones that are 32 grand and up, not the ones that are under $30,000. You realize that. That's what they often do with all the companies. They only sell the real fancy ones first because they want to make a ton of money, and then later they sell the cheaper ones. It's out. Realize it's a Subaru. It's not a Toyota, but they've upgraded it quite a bit. Kind of a fun car in that price range if you want a sports car. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.